So for the last few months, we have been selling our own flour, and it's been a wonderful thing to explore. We have bigger plans for it, namely, we want to get the flour into your hands. That's going to take us no more than a couple more months, we think. We've been putting together all the puzzle pieces in order to be able to take this leap from making improvements to our milling workflows to really getting an understanding of what works and what doesn't work for selling our own flour. This is actually the first. It looks pretty unattractive now. So let's take kind of iterations. This is sort of closer to where we're landing, and this is where we started. At first, we just needed to start selling flour. So the directive was buy a bag that can hold 5 pounds, and let's self-print the labels. We have a label printer that we use for a lot of different things. And when we originally printed the labels, they turned out more like this one, where it's a white label. It has our new logo for the flour mill. It didn't print that clean, meaning it was kind of grainy in the print quality, but at least it was a decent start. Rather than having to wait for labels and design all the labels, there's a lot that goes into it, like little details to get them printed. The only problem is that this happens. For whatever reason, these labels just get discolored over time. And so they start looking quite unattractive, which you could probably correlate to a drop in sales activity just because the label got yellowed over the course of a couple weeks. Yet the content, which in this case is like whole berries, hasn't really changed or degraded in any way. Well, self-printing labels don't work for this reason, but given that it's going to be Black Friday soon, we are planning a 50% off Black Friday special on all of our grains and flours that are in these prototype bags. So you see a white bag of grain or flour, you can purchase it for 50% off, which is basically like our cost for the grain. It's a really good deal, a really great way to try our new flours and grains out and help us to pave the way so that we can make bags that look more like this and are almost ready to ship. We have different printed labels for each of the grains that we make. They have a slight change in color so that it's kind of visually appealing to see a whole shelf full of the new flour bags. I'm looking forward to being able to witness this in person, and hopefully we'll move all the prototype bags on Black Friday. So if you are nearby here and can stop in the bakery right after Thanksgiving, and if you like baking at home, note that almost a large majority of the content that we're now making, we're doing in this home setting, in a home kitchen, and we're using this flour to make products that you can bake with at home. So this is an excellent opportunity to try the flour for the first time while it's literally half off. And it's so that basically early December leading up to the holidays, we can fill our shelves with the newer design and get one step closer to being ready to scale this to shipping. I want to introduce these different flours and grains to you and give you some sources of inspiration to start baking at home with them. Actually, there should be nearly twice the amount of bags here to really convey all that you can do with just our flour, in the sense that we have different grades of milling. We can mill whole wheat, but we can also mill sifted whole grain, and so I'll touch on that and the differences. We also have some flours that we're carrying by central milling, which we think rounds out the ability to use all the flours that we're selling in a huge range of baking. So let's start here with white Sonora. White Sonora is a quintessential Arizona grain at this point, you could say, in the sense that it's been growing here natively for about 500 years. And that shouldn't be understated. It was introduced to the Native American populations hundreds of years ago and has been continually grown since then. It experienced a revival in the last 20, 30 years as people discovered this grain after a long timeline where really just commercial industrial wheat was kind of the standard. You can use it for a variety of applications. It generally has a lower gluten content. We use it in our sourdough pretzels, actually both to impart flavor and local grains, but also to help cut the protein levels so that the pretzels are not as strong. You don't actually want strong gluten development in pretzels. So I've used it in the past for things like buttermilk biscuits, which I can definitely show you how to make at home. I've used it in the past for even our sourdough doughs as a supplement to impart, again, flavor. So you can easily get 30% of a sourdough loaf, like a country sourdough loaf, in white Sonora and experience no real problems, but definitely receive the benefits of the nuanced flavor. And trust me, if you make a 30% white Sonora mixed with, say, type 85, you'll notice a huge difference than if you were to just go with the type 85 roller milled flour. You'll have a deeper color, a much nicer aroma, and a nuanced flavor that you can trace to this is what white Sonora wheat tastes like. And once you go that route, whether as a consumer buying bread off of our shelves or as a home baker making it for yourself, you'll realize whole grain, stone milled, make a huge difference to the quality of the bread that I'm eating, both from a nutritional perspective and a taste perspective. That's white Sonora. Now, we have to go even more ancient to talk about Khorasan. It's also known as kamut out in the world. Kamut is like a registered trademark. I don't really understand why a grain has a registered trademark, but a lot of people might know this as kamut flour. We're calling it by the non-trademarked name Khorasan, which also is a ode to where its origin story lies, which is 5,000 years ago in Persia. And if you look at old maps of the area, actually entire maps had Khorasan as a region in that area. So anyway, this grain is even considered a cousin now to modern wheat because it's so old, 5,000 years without any kind of hybridization or anything like that. You can use it to make bread on its own. It's going to be a very dense experience, kind of like rye, but imparts a lot of flavor. Mixed with some modern wheat, you can do magic. I think our Khorasan sourdough that we make at Proof is one of the best breads that I've had. And a lot of people that come and visit from around the world think of it really fondly as well. But to make it, we actually freshly mill Khorasan berries whole and then scald them, meaning we combine the freshly milled berries with boiling water and make kind of a porridge, if you will, that then gets introduced into the regular doughs. You don't have to go as complicated. You can again take 20, 30% of the flour and just incorporate it to a base bread flour and do really well with it. But you can kind of go the whole 9 yards and try to replicate what we've done with our Khorasan bread at home. It's really a beautiful grain. So our rye is also an organic rye berry that we get and we mill whole. Rye is particularly useful for home baking. There's nothing quite like the aroma and flavor of rye when used appropriately as a supplement in your baking. But of course, then there's a whole range of baking that you can do just with rye that really shouldn't be understated. It is the quintessential sourdough line of products to begin with, which is why it's a shame that it took us nearly 7 years to produce a true rye loaf on our menu every day. We couldn't really manage the logistics of multiple sourdough starters in the old garage and even just Mesa only environments. Now we make rye daily. And as a sourdough bakery, we realized like not having rye means not expressing like an entire half to what sourdough is. Rye is best done in a sourdough method, even though nowadays you can find plenty of yeasted recipes. The acidity of the sourdough environment helps ensure that you don't have many problems that occur when you do make rye breads, namely collapsing of the crumb structure, which often happens when the acidity is too, when the pH is too high. So you can buy rye that we've freshly milled in a whole berry or again sifted method. Sifted rye is more specialized and can be used in certain applications. In fact, you can buy all of our proof flour mill flours either whole or sifted, and the difference, we're trying to actually simplify this. When you go and buy flour, you can buy bread flour, you can buy all-purpose flour, you can buy pastry flour, and those are very non-technical ways of describing flour. Then if you go to Europe, especially, you can buy like all these different types. If you are a commercial US customer, you can still buy like type 85. Well, as a home baker, it's kind of hard to really conceptualize what does it really mean for a flour to be type 85? On a stone flour mill like we have, the grades get even harder to really pinpoint. What we really have is two stones that rub together, and if you just take the whole berry that rubs on the two stones together and comes out the main shoot, you get whole wheat. It's whole berry in, whole berry out. Or we can redirect the grains to go through the sifting box, where we have 3 different screens and then an empty bucket, so 4 buckets down the line that gather different grades of flour coming out of the mill. Well, that first bucket sifts out about 15% of the total material that we put in grain form. And so that's like 15% from the 100, and so we're getting kind of a type 85, if you will, out of the mill. But there's a big difference between a roller milled type 85 and a stone milled, what we're calling sifted. And the reason being is a roller mill can strip out the bran and the germ from the endosperm almost perfectly. The steel rollers basically split the wheat berry and splice out the bran and the endosperm, or sorry, the bran and the germ, which leads to kind of a very pure process of refinement. You can get a pure white flour on a roller mill. There's no such thing as a pure white flour on a stone mill, because the stones grind the whole berry, and then basically screens just sift out the larger particles from the grinding process. So yes, sifted flour is less likely to impact gluten development, and so it's easier to get an open crumb with sifted flour. But it's still a whole grain flour, because you still have germ and you still have bran. You just have the bran and the germ in smaller amounts because the largest particles of bran have been sifted out in the other screens. So that's what we provide at Proof. And you can experiment with both. You can take whole wheat flour that we make and make beautiful things with it, or you can mix the whole wheat flour with a roller milled flour that we offer from Central Milling, or you can use our sifted flours, which allow you to probably take more risks in your baking in using kind of this whole grain to make a beautiful loaf. We've certainly used like sifted Khorasan 100% and made a beautiful bread, or sifted Rouge de Bordeaux and made a beautiful bread. But those loaves are definitely, they taste more like a whole wheat bread in what you're used to. The beauty is in the alchemy of how you can mix these things to essentially create bread that you'll never find at a store, and that you'll probably never really find at a bakery either. Our job as a bakery is to appeal to a wide variety of people, and so we make a huge amount of different types of breads by the alchemy of kind of mixing these things together. So really the combinations are endless, and I think the best way to explore is to just follow along with us as we make new content using our flours in a home setting that you can replicate. So soon enough you'll be able to buy bags that look like this, less so like this one, which is less appealing. You'll also be able to buy some of our base flours that you can blend in, and you can follow along with us as we bake from home and show you how to use these grains. So that's a little bit on Proof Flour Mill and what we're doing. Check out other clips of where we're actually showing you how the mill works so that you can understand a little bit more about stone mill flours. I'm gonna put these back now. Let's go over what it's like to build a bakery from one person to many. There's ways to scale and pick equipment that does not compromise quality, but just as easily you could scale your way into equipment that does nothing but compromise quality.
As long as you can keep the integrity of the process intact and you're not prone to compromise for the machinery that you own.
At our largest facility, it's probably 30 people, but across the organization, it's around 50.
At the end of the day, that's more of a question of what kind of culture have you built so far and how many people are actually invested into that mission.
Flour, water, salt, sourdough starter. With that set of resources, alchemy transpired. We're making croissant dough. It stretches a little so you can see that the gluten's developed. To hand laminate, press down and out. I'm gonna open up fully to 5, place another chocolate on the other side, and those are my pain au chocolat. Outside end into the middle, and I'm left with this braided twist. You want to avoid ones that are too dense. Also probably just means you didn't proof long enough. I'm offering something that's got inherent value in it.
When they come up and they're like, wow, your bread is so beautiful, it's like, yeah, I scored that. The thing that you're wowed by, I did it.
Your products should be the stars of building demand over time. Ingredients are more powerful and less expensive than advertisements. You should use them.